Hello, and thank you for joining us today to learn more about the latest version of the Planning for the Next Normal at School Playbook, Family WellBeing chapter. Today, we'll walk briefly through a couple of plays from the chapter, as well as resources supporting those plays. I'm Flora Daniel, manager at Kaiser Permanente, and I am joined by Sean Wade, co-author at the Family WellBeing chapter. Hello, Sean. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Flora. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, can you share a little bit about your background and experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my role as the director of family school partnerships at Action for Healthy Kids, I really work with families and school staff to make sure that both have what they need to work really well together to make sure that all kids have the opportunity to learn in a healthy school environment. So I've been with the organization for about 5 years, and I also have a 3-year-old son at home and a daughter due in December. So this work is also really personally very important for me as well.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. The
Thank you.
growing family. All right. Well, sounds like this topic is near and dear to your heart, and kind of a passion area for you. So great to hear that. And before we dive into our conversation with Sean, I would like to just give a brief overview of the checklist for this chapter that includes tips to support family well-being as families and schools move into the recovery phase of the COVID-19 pandemic and transition to in-person learning. The first play is Connect with teachers and staff to acknowledge the shared struggles and challenges of this past year and to share potential concerns with staff in the spirit of collaboration. Support mental well being by talking with your kids about school and finding out how your school is supporting mental health. Keep your family safe by talking to your kids about COVID-19 and their safety at school. Find support for fundamental needs by communicating your employment, housing, food, and other needs to school staff or others in your support network. And lastly, make time for physical activity. Now, here's a glimpse of what the full playbook checklist looks like. And so now we'll kind of dive into to learn a little bit more about this chapter. So, Sean, if you could tell us why it's important to consider family well-being as we plan to return to school, and how does the checklist help us do that?
Yeah, so I really think, especially after what has been an incredibly difficult year plus, now is the time for reimagination. So it's been a year when schools and families were really forced to work very closely together to make sure students could sustain their health and education. And I think this playbook provides some specific ways to take that momentum that has been created by that collaboration over the last year plus and create a healthier future for kids by investing in family school partnerships in a really intentional way. So the first post-COVID school year, starting this fall, presents a chance to honor that shared struggle of parenting and educating during the pandemic, while also turning that resilience and creativity into a robust and real partnership that brings together all of us who want to see kids thrive.
Great. And if you could share more about the first play and maybe a resource you'd like to highlight from this chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first play is really about connecting, parents connecting with teachers and school staff, and vice versa, school staff and teachers really making a point to intentionally connect with parents, and not just when there are discipline or academic issues, but in positive ways too. Those positive phone calls home are really important for teachers and staff to make. And vice versa, it's really important for parents to reach out and start to build those relationships with teachers and staff, because it really does all start with relationships. That takes time, it takes trust, and it takes mutual respect and understanding, which hopefully we've built up a little bit of over the past year. I think one of the things that's been really evident this last year with the pandemic that's been happening is parents and teachers have had to rely on one another, both for the academic piece, but also the health piece for their kids. So I think acknowledging that shared challenge, that shared struggle that both teachers and parents have dealt with over the last year is really important to build that relationship. One of the resources that we've highlighted in the checklist that I think is really important and critical to building those relationships and can really be helpful in doing so is our collaboration guide that Action for Healthy Kids has developed over the course of the last several years, working with a group of parents in the Denver public school system. It's a group of parents that really they started just as a concerned group of parents, primarily Spanish-speaking parents in Southwest Denver that went to Action for Healthy Kids because they had some concerns about some of the food served and food services at their kids' schools. And so we worked with them to connect with the district and really helped facilitate a better understanding of one another, where they were able to share their concerns. The district was able to share what they could do and what they couldn't do, so they really could come to an understanding of how they could better work together. And they've taken that momentum and built on that beyond just what happened with nutrition and food services to now where they can share many different areas and topics of health. And really have a better understanding of one another, and clearer communication and more trust that's built up. They've been able to change some of the menu items and some of the customer service and the food services that the food service staff in the school has done. And through that partnership, they were able to develop this guide with Action for Healthy Kids support on how other schools and other districts and other families could do the same thing in their communities as well. So it has some really strong tips on how to build those relationships and how to start from a place where there may not have been trust or there may be eroded trust, and how to rebuild those things by building those relationships together. So that collaboration guide, I think, is a really useful tool to help build those relationships.
All right, and thank you, Sean, for highlighting that. And it sounds like a great tool for learning more about how to collaborate. And it's great to hear that kind of experience and journey that the families and teachers went through and staff went through of how to facilitate that collaboration that kind of, gave us this guide. So that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what is the second play and resource you'd like to highlight from this chapter?
Yeah, so the second play that I think is really important, and it's the second one in the checklist, but it's really around supporting mental well-being, both for your kids, for yourselves, and understanding that there's a need to do that for school staff and teachers as well. But one of the things that we think it's really important to do as parents is to take care of yourselves and to give yourselves a break. So give yourselves a little bit of grace and to say, hey, it's okay. It's been a hard year for everybody. Everybody is doing a ton right now. So it's okay to take five, even if it's just 5 minutes. If you can take an afternoon, take an afternoon. If you can take a whole day, take a whole day, and really just try to recharge. Because I found as a parent, I'm sure many other parents have felt the same way, that it's hard to care for others if you're not caring for yourself first. And that with the saying that you can't pour from an empty cup. So make sure you take your time to refill your cup. And we have a resource on our website with just some really simple ways and some simple tips to give yourself a break. It was a thing that we did for parents last summer in the midst of COVID, and I think it's still really an important resource and a way that all parents can just take a few things. You don't need any other materials or supplies to do that, but just take a few minutes to give yourselves a break and then be able to recharge a little bit and take care of your family again.
Great, thank you. And thank you for highlighting the power of a 5-minute break just to pause and kind of reset and get back in there. And what's a third play and resource that you'd like to highlight from the chapter?
Yeah, so the third one is really around keeping your family safe. So as we re-enter the school buildings, as most schools open back up to in-person learning, we're really want to make sure that you're taking time to talk with your schools about reopening and about what the safety precautions that they have in place look like and what those are for your students. But then also taking time to understand and to ask questions and to learn the facts and the real information about vaccines when they become available for children under the age of 12. I know they're available right now for students 12 and up. So really, I know parents have a ton of questions about vaccines and about what reopening in person for in-person school learning looks like. So ask those questions, talk with your principals, talk with your teachers, talk with staff, and participate in the forums and surveys about that reopening, about those reopening plans. But then really take advantage of the resources that Kaiser Permanente has developed, videos around the true information about the COVID vaccine. There's videos that are available around parents asking questions that you may have yourselves, and experts, doctors and scientists answering those questions and providing real information about the COVID vaccines. We just want to make sure everybody's informed and can make the best decisions. But we really do think that it's important that once those vaccines are available for students and they're safe for students under the age of 12, that we're learning as much as we can so that we can make those choices and get everybody back to school safely.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we wrap, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just want to just share how much it's been a pleasure working on this checklist with you. I think it's a really important document and has a ton of really great information for schools, for districts, and especially for parents as we go back to school this fall. We're really excited about starting a year that is a little bit more a new normal, as we're calling it. But we're really excited for what that looks like. I know it's going to be another year of transition, and there's some uncertainty there, but I really think that we can take some of what we've learned over the past year and how we've collaborated together, bringing families and schools together in support of kids' health and kids' education, and really build on that for this year and beyond. So I know it's been a hard year, but I'm really excited about what the future holds and all that we can do together.
And thank you for that closing message, Sean, and leaving us on that optimistic note around all the opportunity we have going into this upcoming school year. So thank you for joining us and sharing more about the chapter and the checklist and resources to support some of those plays. And thank you all for joining us for this conversation. And to access the checklist and additional resources, visit the Thriving Schools website using the link that's on the screen. So thank you again for joining us, and take care.